I chose a case study from Module 7 from the Encyclopedia of Ethical Failure, Department of Defense. The title of this case study is Awarding Contracts to Friend Earns Employee 5 Years Probation. It's on page 41. In this case study, an employee at NASA was trying to cash in on the agency's electrical services contract. He was a communications specialist at Langley Research Center, or LARS. He was responsible for approving the work at LARS to install a new telecommunications closet. He recommended that the main contractor hire a certain subcontractor. He then gave him the referral to a particular subcontractor, his friend. They agreed and his friend completed the work. When the employee's friend finished the work, he bid on another contract and hired the NASA employee as his subcontractor. In this case, the NASA employee and his friend had a scam going that they would acquire contracts and then hire each other as subcontractors. In this case, there are many moral issues that arise. The fact that the employee is over the project at NASA and has a lot of influence over who gets hired and makes recommendations is a conflict of interest. This is outlined in the case, as well as that NASA has a conflict of interest statute that prohibits employees from participating in official actions that affect their financial interests, and this includes even making a recommendation. The fact that he hired his friend is a clear conflict of interest. The employee used bad judgment in doing this. His code of conduct went against the values of NASA. He did not use ethical decision-making when referring his friend to the main contractor. There was no transparency in the project's hiring process because the employee and his friend had a monopoly over it. According to the readings, professionals are people who exercise specialist knowledge and skill. How the use of this knowledge should be governed when providing a service to the public can be considered a moral issue and is termed professional ethics. In this case, the NASA employee violated those professional ethics and he did not show professionalism. There is also a level of self-deception in this situation, as the employee was so confident that he wouldn't get caught that he continued to run the scam. He lied by omission because he did not disclose his relationship with the subcontractor to NASA or the main contractor. By doing this, he violated the trust that was placed in him by the company and the public. He also showed no integrity, which comes from being honest and sincere. Recall that business ethics refers to integrity in the following way. Integrity, that is unity between what we say and what we do, is a highly valued trait, but it is more than just consistency of character. Acting with integrity means we adhere strongly to a code of ethics, so it implies trustworthiness and incorruptibility. Being a professional of integrity means consistently striving to be the best person you can be in all your interactions with others. One of the ambiguities of this case was that it never stated how long the employee and his friend had been running the scam and if they had did it on any other projects at NASA. Although there are many moral issues with this situation, there are 3 moral issues that stand out in this case. The main ones were a gateway for the other moral issues that occurred. One is that the employee suggested his friend for the job. The employee was in a position that had access to the contract for this project. In NASA's official standards of ethical conduct for employees at the National Aeronautics and Space Administration Handbook, it states, "An employee shall not use his public office for his own private gain, for the endorsement of any product, service, or enterprise, or for the private gain of friends, relatives, or persons with whom the employee is affiliated in a non-governmental capacity, including nonprofit organizations of which the employee is an officer or member, and persons with whom the employee has or seeks employment or business relations." This is just one specific clause in the handbook. There are many others in which NASA goes into detail about this type of behavior and why it is prohibited. This shows that they do not take the violation of ethical conduct lightly. NASA also states in their handbook that employees have a responsibility to the government and the citizens to place loyalty to the Constitution, laws, and ethical principles above private gain. Another moral issue with this case is that the employee showed no integrity. He was not honest and sincere in his dealings. He violated NASA's trust in him and the public's. Finally, there was a level of self-deception that the employee exhibited. According to the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, it defines self-deception in the following way. Minimally, self-deception involves a person who A, as a consequence of some motivation or emotion, seems to acquire and maintain some false belief despite evidence to the contrary, and B, who may display behavior suggesting some awareness of the truth. By engaging in this self-deception, he was only deceiving himself. He became emboldened when he didn't get caught the first time, and this led him to continue to do this. It would be the responsibility of NASA to solve this violation by removing the employee from this position. Solutions for this case would first be to remove the employee from that particular position. NASA could reassign him and give him training under a probationary period. Once this is done, NASA could implement retraining for all its employees and what their duties entail from a moral standpoint. They could also inform the employees to report unethical behavior. In the read-ins, there are whistleblower protections. It states, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, a part of the U.S. Department of Labor, has developed several whistleblower protection programs. These programs enforce the whistleblower provisions of more than 20 whistleblower statutes, protecting employees who report violations of various workplace safety and health, airline, commercial motor carrier, consumer product, environmental, financial reform, food safety, health insurance reform, motor vehicle safety, nuclear pipeline, public transportation agency, railroad, maritime, and security laws. Rights afforded by these whistleblower protection laws include, but are not limited to, worker participation in safety and health activities, reporting a work-related injury, illness, or fatality, or reporting a violation of statutes herein. With NASA, they have detailed ways that employees can report unethical behavior as well. Theirs states, current and former federal employees, including probationary employees and applicants for federal employment, can file a written complaint with the U.S. Office of Special Counsel. Complaint forms are available on the web at www.osc.gov. Employees do not need attorneys to file a complaint. OSC is an independent and prosecutorial agency. It will investigate allegations of prohibited personnel practices and seek the appropriate corrective and/or disciplinary action. This is preferable because it is an outside agency and hopefully reduces the chance of retaliation to the employee. In the actual case study, it wasn't stated whether the employee was fired, but he was fined. Another solution would be to suspend him while he goes through retraining on what violates the ethics of the company. Finally, another solution could be to fire the employee and make him pay restitution. This brings to mind similar cases to this. When Atlanta Mayor Kasim Reed was in office, his administration hired his former law firm to handle sensitive legal issues at Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. The mayor was accused of giving contracts to his political donors and acquaintances. This was a clear conflict of interest. Reed also gave vending contracts at the airport to donors to his political campaign. In this situation, he gave back the donation money to the donors who were awarded contracts at the airport. The city also released the paperwork of the vendors in an effort to remain transparent and honest in the awarding of the contracts. In my own personal interactions, I used to work for the local government. At the time, commissioners in the county were accused of giving their family tag office contracts for emissions testing. In this situation, friends, acquaintances, and family were given priority spots to build emissions office near tag offices. Although this is small scale compared to what the NASA employee did, it is still a conflict of interest. I think the best solution would be to reassign the employee under a probationary period. It benefits the company to reiterate their values and ethical policies periodically so that people will always keep them in mind. At my job, there are yearly HR training that focus solely on ethical procedures and values and each employee has to sign off on training to say they understood and know what is expected from them as a professional. In this case study, I don't think that the NASA employee simply forgot his ethical training. I think that making him pay restitution for the violation was the right thing to do. Yeah, I don't think that firing him for this particular offense is the answer. Ethically, he violated the trust and code of conduct. However, putting him under a probationary period after he has paid his restitution and demoting him to a position that does not have this level of authority could help. People make mistakes, but I think that if you learn from the mistake, you should not be punished for it forever. I rejected the idea to fire him because I don't think that is always the answer. People can learn and evolve. One mistake does not determine who you are as a person, even if it is a big one.